Hello and welcome back to the Hearthstone Global Games, where I'm joined once again by Lorinda. Lorinda, we just saw Zoo.
Yeah, I saw the Zoo happen there, but I faced it a few times on ladder as Druid, and Druid tends to lose that one, but you don't face it much.
I mean, you don't see Warlock. I had to say to Raven at the start of that game, I don't think I've seen this matchup in months. Have you? He said
yeah, no. I played a lot of Druid, so
Oh.
I remember these things, but yeah, not much.
Right, but coming up now, Italy versus Finland. Now, this is a series that I'm very excited for. I haven't had the chance to say this yet, but I'm going to announce myself as supporting Team Italy now. I do have a little bit of Italian blood, and I really like these players. Innovan, a huge grinder in the Hearthstone scene. Snowman and Turner, these guys are students. These guys are juggling school and Hearthstone, but they're still here as one of the top 4 players in Italy. And Yorkmuth, he's a streamer. He streams for fun, he streams to socialize, and he's very heavily into the Italian scene. I really like these guys, and not to be too biased, but I'm excited to see how they do against Finland.
Yeah, Snowman as well has played a significant amount of HCT. He's played all 3 preliminaries last year at least, so he is managing to juggle that Hearthstone pretty well with his studies. Meanwhile, Finland are sort of all 8 of these players have been around forever, but Finland have been around forever in the public eye. Like Wampy was playing events in 2014 on Twitch in various events. Ursi did really well. I think he came second at DreamHack Winter or Summer 15. They've been around for a long time, the Finnish guys, whereas the Italian guys have been around for as long, but they've only recently started to get the results, like Turner getting top 8 HCT one of the seasons last year, and so on, basically.
Well, it sounds like for both of these teams, because this was a recurring theme when we casted Finland before versus Chile. They're all about community. They're all about the Finnish scene. They're all about socializing, practicing with each other. And Italy seems to be the same. As I mentioned a moment ago, Yorkmuth is all about the Italian scene. They're also the top 4 players in Italy when it comes to HCT points. Whereas on a lot of the teams, you've got the best player as the anchor and then popular streamers as the other players. With Italy, all 4 of these guys are the top 4 in HCT points and also popularity.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see how they're going. Like I say, see if they can overtake Finland as the team who, have been around for a long time and had decent success. Like they're not doing nothing. Kufdon came top 16 at DreamHack Winter last time and could have gone further, but I seem to remember something happened, like he queued his banned deck by mistake because everyone was banning the same deck. He's like, oh, this isn't banned, just auto queue. Your brain turns off, and that put him out of the top 16. Really unfortunate moment. These guys are still strong. We're going to get into that first game, though, and Kufdon with the Priest against Turner with the Warrior.
Of course, we're using the Hearthstone Global Games format, where each team decides in advance what order that they're going to be playing and distributes the 9 different deck lists amongst all 4 of them. And then it's a blind pick. Each player picks one of their 2 decks and plays it against each other. If we get to the 5th game in the best out of 5, then we get to the ace match, where one player will be playing a second time using either the deck that they could have queued earlier but didn't, or their ace deck.
Yeah, and a lot of the teams sometimes will hide a deck in that ace match, or sometimes they'll get their good stuff out early and so on. Sometimes they'll leave the good stuff for the ace match. It just depends how they see the strategy.
For quite a few weeks, the very common strategy was just shove Warlock in the ace match. We probably won't get there, it's fine. The problem is if you do that, and then you do get to the ace match, it's obvious that the deck that you're going to be taking is the one that's not the Warlock, meaning that the other class can, try and counter that.
Unless, of course, you play the Warlock.
Which we saw earlier.
There we go.
You can see on screen there, Kufdon and Turner getting ready for their first game. Don't forget, both teams are going to be playing with their communications open to their teammates. This is not a one-man event. All 4 teammates, for every team, not just these guys, but for every team, are playing all games together at all times. There's no 1v4, there's no 2 versus 4. It's always 4 versus 4 in the Hearthstone Global Games.
A few facts on the screen for you guys there. 41 points from Kufdon in 2016. Guys, if you try to earn points, you get 1 for reaching legend. So that's 12. You only got 29 more than that. Easy.
Yeah, and it's not even easy to get after the legend ones. Like,
Right,
I think you can get 5 per month for winning an Open Cup.
Yep.
And then it's like get top 100 legend, get top 50, like whatever, just get a very high legend score and hold it until the end of the season.
Interesting to see how Wampy copes today as well. He was a little bit on tilt yesterday as he came second in his 3rd Open Cup in 6 days. 3 second places, second to Crane yesterday of all the people. And apparently he didn't stream last night because he was so salty. So Wampy actually said, look, I need to take a day off so that I'm ready after these events to get into HGG. Because those points are important. If you can only count 1 per month, so when you keep coming second, you're not actually improving anything.
And I think it was Abar who I saw tweet yesterday or the day before something like, you know, one of the most underrated traits of a good Hearthstone player is being able to lose a game, take a deep breath, and then return to it without tilting.
Right, or, I mean, the other trait is to know when you're tilting and take that time off. If you're one of the players who... It's just how you are. If you're one of those players who's susceptible to getting a bit angry when things go wrong, I'm certainly not one of those.
No?
Well, okay, damn it.
I think that's true, is it?
It's the second best trait you can have is to recognise that you're one of the people like who can't handle it and just take some time off. And Wampy publicly recognised it yesterday. I'm not going to stream. I'm just going to concentrate on tomorrow's game. And here we go. Let's see how much he helps out Kufdan. And they are going with a pretty good-looking hand for Silence Priest.
Yeah, Silence Priest versus Pirate Warrior is a strange matchup because I think a lot of it comes down to how quickly the Silence Priest can get going with the taunting Humongous Razor Leafs and playing cards like Potion of Madness. You're right, this hand looks really strong. One very interesting facet of the Silence Priest is if you stick an Ancient Watcher down, sometimes your opponent decides, I actually have to trade with that.
Yeah.
And you could not have a Silence, not have a Faceless Shambler, you could not have anything. Just put the 2-drop down that does nothing, and yet your opponent still trades into it.
Let's see if Italy smell it out. No, they throw away the Spellbreaker.
Okay.
So, I mean, I think that's the right thing on average, but I was just curious. It's in this deck for a reason. Why, you know, why is it there? It's the Silence things, but was it there specifically in case they maybe got some research that said that Silence Priest was coming? It'd been an amazing keep if they'd kept it, but they did choose to mulligan it away. Of course, they can always redraw it later.
Now, Raven refers to this as American Pirate Warrior. What do you think about that, Neil?
Why?
Because of the Worgen.
Oh, because of the Worgen, sure. Yeah, I can't disagree with that, unfortunately, which would be nice to disagree because it's Raven. But no, I can't disagree with that. It seems that we've only ever seen that really played in the American team in here.
Yeah.
And obviously the players in their respective streams.
Well, yeah, and then a few others since. So the Americans seem to get their first... You know, they were the first to use it, and now others have adapted that. Worgen Invitation, and I think Spellbreaker was also one of the things that Team America did first.
It's it's almost guaranteed damage against everything now. You don't see many Holy Novas, you don't see many Fan of Knives, you just don't see much. You do see still in Shaman has all the early removal, but
you don't see much Shaman.
Right, sure. So it's pretty close to guaranteed damage now, which is something that Pirate Warrior urgently needs, of course. Yeah. And Finland now, Kufdan having a bit of a laugh about this because they've got everything they need. They just need to do it in the right order and be careful. And he's waving there and saying hi to his mum. What a lovely young boy.
Yeah, he was just having to think really hard. Do you see how his fingers were pressed against his temples there as he communicates to his teammates?
Yeah. And they seem to be having good fun with this, of course.
Communication, as we've talked to no end about previously, is something that Team Finland know that they do best. They play together through choice all of the time, even without the global games. They host LAN tournaments together. They practice together. They play against each other. These guys are friends with each other. That's what Hearthstone's about, and it's certainly what Hearthstone's about for Team Finland.
Yeah, the team spirit helps. If you're in a good mood, like the Greek team, we see it. They were 0-2. They've managed to keep their spirits high, have some fun with it, come what may. Now they're 2-2. Other teams may have given up in that situation. Not given up, but not been able to have so much fun with it, and that sometimes leads you thinking less clearly. And they're still trying to work out what they want to do here.
Complicated turn already for Turner. You almost definitely dropped the N'Zoth's first mate. Do you then have to upgrade it? Do you hold on to the N'Zoth's first mate and just hero power? I think that's way too slow, personally. This seems like a pretty solid start.
Yeah, upgrading it means that if you do draw 1-drop next turn, then your Dread Corsair becomes significantly stronger next turn because you can drop it for 2 mana, of course. They've got to see, but the Priest game can go long.
Yeah.
Because they don't know what they're up against, remember?
On the flip side, upgrading an Arcanite Reaper later on into the game, that can just be game-breaking against any late-game class.
Exactly, and they're going to treat this like it's going to be a late-game class. Again, little do they know. They're half expecting a potion here to just wipe out their board. Potion of Madness, so they're going to have to play the long game. That's why they're keeping this upgrade.
Unfortunately for Kufton, he actually shuffled away the Potion of Madness in his mulligan. How strong would that be now? Radiant Elemental, Potion of Madness with the coin and whatever else. Not with whatever else, sorry. I'm treating Radiant Elemental like it's Lyra for a second there. This seems pretty good, though.
Yeah, I mean, against some decks, the 4-8, the opposing deck has to start bumping into it to make sure that that minion just doesn't have huge health totals for long. But Pirates don't quite have the sustain they used to have with the Buccaneers and such like. And, you know, bumping a whole bunch of damage into a 4-8, even if it's not to kill it, is just not wasteful, but it's just too much. You just can't keep doing. You've got to just keep smashing face and hope they haven't drawn everything, which they have.
Yeah, so having the 4-8, silencing it, and then putting a taunt up as well, it seems like a pretty good position for Kufton to be in. The question is, will he survive long enough to put up the taunt? And then when he's got the taunt up, is there too much damage for the taunt to sustain against it? It's going to be a little bit slow for Kufton, but it looks like he's feeling comfortable-ish with his ends here.
So many decisions to make even here in this. I mean, one thing you can do is just start killing things. Silence your 4-8, just start slapping things about.
Yeah.
And that's what he's probably going to go to. Rather than going for the combo with the Faceless Shambler, get huge stuff, just kill some stuff. Who's laughing at Purify now, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, go back in time, you know, 10 months and say, hey, Purify is part of a top-tier deck or one of the top or tier 2 decks. I don't think anyone would believe you.
No one did. No one did believe me. Anyway.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Because I always say that about bad cards. The one time it ever happens, you actually look like a genius. You don't if you're crazy.
You were at the forefront of the Priest is the best, Purify is a great card train, weren't you?
Yeah, I was the train. I was going the other way to everybody else. Anyway, Turner here now, serious decisions to make. Obviously, they know what they're up against because of the Razor Leaf being played on turn 3, or turn 2 even. 3. I can't count that high. And again, they've got to decide what their strategy is for winning the game. They can not die for the longest time, but Pirates does run out of steam. It has no card draw later on. But they can force a lot of damage through here at the same time.
Yeah, Corcoran Elite just looks like a pretty solid play, filling out the mana, able to get a nice value trade against the Radiant Elemental.
Right.
Potion of Madness still looks very deadly against this board, and we can see there's a Shadow Visions ready to go. Question is, can Kufton afford to wait and play that Shadow Visions, or does he need to play Faceless Shambler now? The problem with the Shambler is that it's only a 4-5. Is a 4-5 with Taunt actually good enough?
So that's what both of these teams need to work out now. So Kufton can kill the 4-1 with his 4-5. That doesn't seem good. Obviously, Turner doesn't expect the potion. It would have happened on turn 2 or 1 if it had been there. I mean, just healing your 4-5 and drawing a card seems a bit too slow. That's the obvious-looking play, but it doesn't really advance your board much. That being said, Northshire Cleric against this current board is very, very powerful. A 1-3 against all these 1-health minions actually does something for once.
It does, it does.
Your health total's so low, though. You're facing 6 that you can see if you kill the Corcoran Elite. You know that the Pirates do at least chunks of 4. You're half expecting to not die, but be in a world of trouble the way you don't recover.
So as a result, I think maybe Kufton has to play the Shadow Visions, fish for a Potion of Madness, and just take out as much of this board as possible. He completely disagrees with me. Gonna buff up the Razor Leaf, make a trade with it, and I guess hope that soon he can get a big taunt with the Faceless Shambler.
This play is just, if you don't kill me now, you never kill me.
Right.
This is like, okay, you've got your chance. If you've got some way of doing 8 damage from hand, which is basically double Heroic Strike, there's not many other ways of doing that, then sure, you got me. If you don't do that, I'm going to heal for 2 every turn. You're going to have a wall of taunts to get through, and my minions are just going to clear your minions, and my taunts are going to get in the way of your weapon.
Yeah.
And it's still a bit dicey, but this is their way to play to win the game.
So Turner has a lot to think about here. He doesn't have lethal, so does he need to start considering trading away this humongous Razor Leaf and this Cabal Talon Priest, maybe even the Northshire Cleric? He can upgrade his weapon into a Fiery War Axe. That would give him almost a free kill on something.
And which way would you go about it? Would you play the Cultist or the Greenskin? Because if you Heroic Strike face now, in the situation where your opponent plays a taunt, then your Mortal Strike will become more powerful. And that seems to be where they're going to go with this, just to get that damage through in case of the taunt coming down.
Okay.
Gives them an out to win the game in the situation where your opponent has, say, Faceless Shambler in their hand.
I like
they
it a
do.
lot. Not enough mana for Kufton to play Faceless Shambler and heal as well. So you're right. Mortal Strike is the out. Is it the only out? I don't think it's... No, it's not quite the only out here.
I mean, just killing them with all your stuff is another out. It's not going to. You're not going to have a whole bunch of stuff, but you're going to have some stuff. Faceless Shambler's not even going to be very big.
So something like Leroy Jenkins would potentially be enough because so Kufton trades away as many of these cheap minions as possible, but then Leroy just comes out, trades away the taunt, and then the weapon will just go face for 3 damage.
Yeah, it's looking really, really difficult for Finland here.
So Mortal Strike is 1 out, but there are several others.
Must consider.
And it depends on how Kufton decides to make this play.
Yeah, not sure how you go about this at all here. Lyra's pretty useless in this situation. Yeah, this is the... When the rope started burning is when he made that point. I think that's the point where everyone goes, okay, we can't find anything better than the play that you instantly see. Let's just make the play. Just to cut out any communication issues. Rope starts burning, make a play.
Oh, and now Italy find themselves on 2 off lethal. Well, they were before with the green skin as well.
Yeah.
But it's still not there. That being said, they get rid of the only taunt on the board. And if Kufton doesn't pick up another taunt, that weapon will just smack the face next turn and win the game. It's going to be a 5-3. Or a 5-2 after this hit.
Yeah, Turner went for the upgrade there and then realised there's no point. I only need to do 4 this turn, so why upgrade? There might be a Rogue Harrison or something floating around, or an Ooze. And also, I might need this upgrade to give me 3 more charges of 1 point of damage. We're that close. Hitting my opponent for 1 is a thing that might matter later on.
Yeah. So where does Patches go? Because I think it could trade with the Razor Leaf. Your weapon still wins the game next turn. Look how confused Kufton looks about that trade. He's thinking, I'm on 3 health. Why? He doesn't...
Right, so now he knows what the hand is if he thinks about it.
Turner doesn't have the damage on the board to kill me, so whatever is in his hand is lethal somehow.
And like I've been saying all along, Finland, they have all been playing this game since about 2014. Very, very experienced and long-term team. So somebody in that team is going to spot this. It's like, nah, nothing makes sense. We've got to respect Turner. He's played HCT, championship events. He's not just messing around trading for no reason here. Something's going on, and that something is an upgrade or another buff of some sort at least.
Yeah, yeah. Turner. Kufton just racking his brain here. Is there anything I can do to stop this?
I mean, there's always that shadow vision, so they're going to always get to the point where, can we do it with our hands? Do we need to do it with our hand? And then there's always shadow visions into Divine Spirit, into Inner Fire to trade, into heal.
Yeah,
is that enough mana?
It's not.
Probably.
Well, it doesn't do enough. Like even trading away the board and healing the face doesn't do enough. You play the Silence. Is there a 1 mana spell that saves him? I can't think of one.
They must have thought of one, I feel. Either that or they've decided we can't do it, so let's just not worry.
Like, he needed to heal.
They got there.
Well, he knows
Didn't
it's not
heal,
enough. He's
and
there's lethal on board.
Turner and Italy take a 1-0 lead, and Italy's push not just here in Hearthstone Global Games, where Dan suddenly found Italian blood after they were 2-0.
Suddenly, okay.
And
That's
started supporting them. Me.
Just injected myself with some. Is that how it works?
Gaskin marries an American.
Well, you know, who are you supporting? England?
Sorry?
You supporting England?
Philippines, Greece, anybody really.
Anybody.
Anybody that's been left.
Neil's just the wild card. He'll decide in the finals who he's supporting.
Just supporting my own team at this point. UK's good. Anyway, Turner and Italy, like I say, not just in this event though, but over the last year and a half, this team have slowly but surely been maybe going past Finland in terms of how their performances have been. Like I say, Snowman played in 3 HCT events. He went 2-2, 2-2, 2-2.
Right.
At that level.
Yeah.
So even though that sounds, well, that's not very exciting, he's 50-50, that's against the top 128 players as it was last year in the whole of Europe, and he's holding his own, so he's in the top half of the top 128. But next up we have somebody else that isn't Snowman, Yorgmoth, I believe.
Yorgmoth, that seems right, yep. Yeah, Yorkworth, so as I mentioned earlier, he's the streamer. He's the
Right.
Every member of Team Italy is a streamer, but Yorkworth is the streamer of the team, as I had it described to me by Snowman. As it says on his Twitch page that he streams to socialize. When he streams,
Right.
he doesn't necessarily stream competitive decks. He doesn't try hard his streams. He streams to chill out with his Twitch chat, play the decks he likes to play the game he likes to play, and just hang out with the Italian scene.
And I have no idea how big the cup was, but he won the Italian Series Cup last year, picked up over $1,000, so it wasn't small for his achievements there. So he can play this game as well, and Yorgmoth will be somebody to contend with.
I want to point out, because I don't think it's something we've mentioned yet, you mentioned briefly as a jab at me, what the group is looking like. Yeah, I'm pretty used to that by now. Italy is actually 2-0 in the group at the moment, having beaten Japan and Norway. And Finland is 1-1. They beat Chile in the game that we cast, but they lost to Norway. So Italy are in a position, as we've seen so often over the last few days, where if they win this game, or this series rather, they've almost got a guaranteed spot in the next round of the tournament.
Yeah, very, very close indeed. Just seeing there, we've talked about Yormoth being the one who maybe doesn't play quite as much, just casually the highest point earner in 2015. Were there points in 2015? Was TJ messing with us?
Apparently there were. Yorgmoth also plays for Team Atrax, which all 4 members of Team Italy do.
Right, that also helps you, of course, in terms of this.
Certainly helps in terms of communication. We were saying before how Finland are very, very good with their communication and good with their scene. Well, Italy are ready to show up and give them a hard time and say, hey, we know how to talk to each other as well.
Janetsky, though, very, very difficult opponent, 43 HCT points. And obviously, the quote from last time, we could probably say it a few times more. He says it's not Finland, it's Winland. They're going to have to do some winning, though, to get back into this.
Yeah, well, Finland are going to be bringing Mage to this game and Italy with the Paladin. Now, strangely enough, in the previous series that me and Raven cast, both teams decided not to bring Paladin. It was both players had Paladin lined up together in the same at the same time. They both chose the other deck.
It's interesting. Over the last few days, watching various streams and such like, Paladin has just dipped very slightly as it's getting so teched out of the meta, and that's about when these decks were submitted. If you're watching streams today, you are. Hello. But if you're watching other streams at any point before or after this event, Paladin's starting to sneak back in. Now some of that tech's been dropped. People aren't playing quite so much anti-Paladin.
That's a new card in Paladin. Bilefin Tidehunter. It's not one I've seen much of either. I've seen a lot of it in
I've seen a lot of it, just not in this. But why not? I have seen it, but it's not a build I can tell you much about. And the Tidehunter as well. This looks like it's a very, very all-in.
The other Tidehunter.
Yeah, sorry, the Murloc Tidehunter, not the Bilefin one, is also not particularly common. This is very all-in, and I imagine this has got a lot of buffs, and I think we're going to see something interesting going on here.
Strange thing about the Bilefin Tidehunter is, obviously, it itself is a Murloc, but an Ooze is not a Murloc. So there's not as much Murloc synergy there. You still get a 2-mana 2-1 that does affect the other Murlocs.
Right.
Interacts with War Leader, interacts with Gentle Megasaur, interacts with Tide Cooler, which is another one of the big 1-drops that we're seeing a lot of at the moment.
Gluttonous Ooze could be important. Yeah, there we go. I thought something was going on here a bit fishy. Double Steward of Darkshire.
Fishy, good one.
I know. Thanks, man.
Was that intentional?
They're always intentional, unless proven otherwise.
Mine aren't. Yeah, Gluttonous Ooze with a True Silver Champion in hand on the other side does look like a pretty good pickup from Team Finland there. Steward of Darkshire is a card that has not been seen much in Standard recently, but is a card that's been very popular in Wild recently. There's been a very popular token Paladin deck. I believe it was created by Strifecrow, and it's all about muster for battles and creating as many recruits as possible and then adapting them and buffing them. And it's just served as a reminder that Steward of Darkshire is actually a terrifying card. Withstand against Darkness, which is still in the meta, that's 5 1/1s with Divine Shield.
Yeah, and I think we'll see that. It's interesting. I think we'll see that happen more and more, where people are reminded of various deck builds because of Wild. Yep. And going the other way, Wild will take inspiration from Standard, Standard will take inspiration from Wild. With Wild now having that big tournament at the end of the month, I think that we will see this sort of thing happen. Italy just cursing their luck, though. We saw in that opening hand all those things. They threw away 2/2 drops. They must have a whole...
Yorgmoth is not looking happy about this. Just having to hero power on turn 2 when you're playing such an aggressive deck. I guess you could argue there's mind games being put into play here. They're going to pretend that they're a slower deck, and then on turn 5 or something, just put their hand onto the boards.
Yeah, could well be, especially, like I say, they're throwing away 2 drops. They were looking to get this early curve. They really were looking for this Tide Caller. How many Tide Callers are there? What is it about calling the Tide?
No, they're Tide Hunters. Tide Callers, Tide Hunters, Rockpool Hunters. Murlocs have similar but different names.
They all start with M and end in GL, GL, GL.
This is a pretty disappointing Steward of Darkshire here. It's just a 3-mana 3/3 that trades okay with the board.
Right.
Yawgmoth is only going to feel okay playing it because he has a second one to fall back to in his hand. He's going to plan on curving into the True Silver Champion next turn, which, as we can see, is also going to end up with Italy feeling very sorry.
I think they're already feeling pretty sorry. If you're playing a deck this aggressive and you just end up starting to put random 3/3s for 3 on the board, that's always a sign when you play a 3/3 for 3 that something has gone wrong with your opening. No matter what deck you're playing, that's a tech slash key piece of a deck, one of those 2 things.
Yeah.
If you end up not using it in that role, then you are starting to struggle because you're just giving up stats.
Finja is potentially one of Team Italy's
Right.
comeback cards, though, as we've said a lot recently, it's just not as good now with the wide spread of Murlocs on the deck. If it summons a Bilefin Tide Hunter, it's just a 2/1 that does nothing.
Yeah, the more stuff you put in a Murloc deck, as Murloc-wise, the worse Finja
the Finns, yeah.
Finja becomes. But he becomes better for card advantage because in the old combo versions, if they took out your combo pieces after you used him, he just sat there as a 2/4.
Yeah.
But the other way around, this guy can be used as card advantage, but yeah, they're not very good cards.
Speaking of the Bilefin Tide Hunter there it is. And it has very obvious synergy with Steward of Darkshire. You actually summon a 2/1 and a 1/1 with Taunt that both have Divine Shield.
Yeah. I was just thinking at this stage of the game, that's fine on the early turns, but at this point of the game, you're sort of thinking, yeah, great.
It's not great against Mage. It's okay if it allows your minions to survive a Flame Strike once, but then what? You've got a 2/1 and a 1/1.
I mean, you'd fancy this deck's chances against something like Aggro Druid, where we've all got a bunch of little guys, but mine have got Divine Shield and yours haven't.
Right.
That feels good. But beyond that, we've got Consecration for Living Mana. I would imagine they wanted to run this into Aggro Druid.
Move quickly.
Okay, well, that True Silver Champion's going to come down, and as mentioned previously, oh, look at Janetsky, look at that little laugh there.
Yeah, he knows roughly what's going on. He's seen the Steward, he's seen no things to go with it. He doesn't know exactly what's happening, but he knows that Yawgmoth is in just trouble because he's just not seeing aggressive plays. Yawgmoth is desperately trying to use his resources, he's desperately trying to use all of his available mana, and yeah, Janetsky is it's just all falling nicely for him.
Meanwhile, Yawgmoth gave a little bit of a nod there, like, yeah, this game is not going well. I almost expected that.
Yeah, sometimes it just keeps on rolling when it goes wrong. All right, so not over yet. They are going to be able to get some card advantage out of Finja, but the Mage is into the turns that Raven likes to say about the turns when you don't do much as the Mage, where you don't have any middle game.
Yeah.
But because Finland haven't had to do anything all game, they've just got a hand of 3 and 2s, and 3s and 2s add up to 5 and 6 pretty well.
They do, eventually, yeah.
And
now, Janetsky has a minion on the board, which is sort of a shame, because against Finja, a Mage can sometimes get away with just not playing anything until you Flame Strike. But now he can't, unless he wants to Fireball or Frostbolt his own Gluttonous Ooze.
Right.
Which something tells me he's not going to want to do. He may just have to accept that that Finja is going to get its value next turn.
Yeah, I imagine that Finland have players working out how much is in this deck and what's going on. When you see the Steward and you haven't seen anything else, it's like, guys, somebody, what's happening? Is Finja going to fetch real Murlocs?
Yeah.
And the answer is, not really. And so, yeah, they're just going to ignore it and carry on developing board.
It's possible, just unlikely. I mean, we could see Yawgmoth play the Blessing of Kings, make a trade, and then out of nowhere comes a War Leader and a Bluga Warrior.
Yeah.
It is possible, just unlikely nowadays. Or at least not as likely as it used to be back when there were only Bluga Warriors and Murloc War Leaders in the water decks.
Yeah, and that thing they have to do a lot with those, because in 2 turns' time, first of all, Finland have removal for next turn with Fireballs, with Valets, it's all going on. Then the turn after they have Flame Strike.
Yeah.
And so Italy need to find a way to get those Divine Shields set up. But we can see the hand. Italy can't. They might not even... You know, they'll want those Divine Shields. That's why they're playing Steward. But they might not even have the chance to do that. All right, Super Finja coming in.
Super Finger. I like it. It's going to be hard for Janetsky to deal with. I guess he could use a Fireball, but again, that's a Fireball that's not going into the face.
Finger's a bad superhero, right? Most superheroes wouldn't do this, but Finger summons all of his friends to get killed.
I don't think that's the intention.
That's a pretty bad script.
I agree. Maybe he's an anti-hero.
Yeah, it could be. He could be.
I don't think he's saying, hey guys, come get killed.
Well, he just did.
But
they're going to get annihilated.
And get hit by a meteor, possibly.
Yeah, that's not how most sort of...
It's pretty cool, though. That's a cool script.
What? Super Finger summons his friends, they will get killed by a meteor.
Yeah. Summon his friends to stop the meteor. They failed. Okay, never mind. Let's get back to the game. Okay. Meteor is an option here, obviously. The problem is the positioning of Finger is actually very, very good against the meteor.
I think Flame Strike, Fireball and Medivh's Valet.
Yeah,
it seems pretty good right now.
That's better. You're right. That's better. Because then you can trade the Arcanologist into the Tide Caller. Trying to work out which Tide it was.
Into the one that it kills.
Into the Tide Caller. And then, yeah, that seems really good.
And then next turn, you've still got the Flame Strike up for any remnant Murlocs that may have survived Finger's call.
Because this might be the point where Yawgmoth goes, okay, I'm putting the rest of my hand going as wide as possible, in which case Flame Strike usually deals with everything. However, Steward Darkshire, double Barfin Tidehunter, actually sort of almost counters Flame Strike.
It at least makes the Flame Strike nowhere near as good as Finland are expecting it to be. And they might not be too surprised by this because there was a Steward played onto an empty board earlier. That sometimes suggests a second one, especially when there's no hand going on. And yeah, here comes all of the stuff. They might be surprised by this second Biofin, though.
Yeah, Janetsky already looked a little bit confused. I'm sure I saw an eyebrow raise for a moment there.
But how much damage can these Murlocs do before they do get wiped out? So let's say next turn's going to be really good for Italy, because I think you end up flame striking a lot of the time anyway, although you might not have to.
Yeah, the thing is, unfortunately for Yawgmoth, the Steward of Darkshire is going to die. Guaranteed this.
Yeah.
That's what Mage can do. They can usually remove one target if they have to.
And unless there's some more buffs, we've already seen one Blessing of Kings be used. Italy might get a couple of really good turns in, hitting you for 7 or 8, but that's just not getting it done.
Gentle Megasaur won't buff the Oozers. They'll only buff the Bilefin Hunters themselves. That's okay. That's okay. Buffing a couple of 2-1s with Divine Shields, maybe make them 5-1s, maybe make them 3-2s with Divine Shield, or maybe give them spores so that they summon plants when they die. But
Which get Divine Shields, except they don't.
Yeah, they won't because the Shield will be dead. But it's not quite good enough. I don't see how Yawgmoth comes back here.
Yeah, Yawgmoth is definitely going to be in a spot, but again, there's probably other cards in this deck that involve buffing this wide board. We haven't seen much that really utilises the wide board yet. That helps. Tyrion Fordring, always a good card to pick up on turn 8.
Yeah, I mean, I said I can't see how they come back here.
That's the start, right?
Tyrion is a good start. One of these Biofins can trade away the Medivh's Valet. Still got 2 minions on the board, plus Tyrion. Unless Janetsky had a Polymorph, this isn't easy to deal with, and as we can see, there is no Polymorph.
So I'm wondering... Okay, so there's no Alex Straza yet in Janetsky's hand, plus Finland have no idea if there's any healing in this deck, unless... Yeah, maybe this deck is something that I should know really well, but I don't.
I haven't seen Darkshire played in Standard recently at all.
So maybe there's healing, maybe there's not. So Finland might not want to commit to Alex Straza. If they did pill Alex Straza very soon, they would just win this game a lot of the time, I feel. So maybe Tyrion doesn't even need... I mean, you like to deal with Tyrion, don't get me wrong. Maybe he doesn't need dealing with as much as we think. Maybe we just see double Cabal Courier here come down, ping off the shield of Tyrion, and then just work out next turn where they want to be. Just get a whole new hand of cards. That's kind of what Discovered does. And you're doing it this late. Now you know what you're reacting to.
This Tyrion is actually a pain for Janetsky. I mean, Ping Meteor seems to be the only consistent way of getting rid of it this turn. I guess you just leave it alive.
You just leave it alive, and there you go, there's a meteor for next turn as well. You just leave it alive and start. This is what they're going to do. Get their hand full of stuff to do in the next turn. Because they're on 32, I think it is at the moment, if I remember correctly. That's a long way from dying when your opponent has 2 Paladin cards in hand.
Yeah, that's true. Let's see. Oh, Kazakus.
Kazakus is a potential take here. And this is where somebody has to assign somebody on Finland to say, how many duplicates do you think we've got left?
I wonder if Ice Barrier is just more consistent, though.
Might
because
be.
Against a late-game deck, sure, Kazakus is often actually really, really good to play as a surprise card.
I think I was going to say, I think if you haven't got time to calculate it, you take the Kazakus and you just say, I'll work it out. I'll find a way to make the game go long enough to get Kazakus, to get that 8 armor, to get that last board clear.
If that's even necessary. Which it may not be in this game versus Italy, as it's only really a Tyrion that they're worried about. It's only one card. Finland have the removal for it. It's only then the weapon. We know they won't have any weapon removal left because they already used their Volatile Ooze. So it's just the Tyrion and then the Ashbringer. And after that, they don't really have anything big to worry about, as we can see.
And I've got a feeling that Finland have used one of most of their things. I'm trying to think what there is that's left over. It's a bit hard when you're casting to do that sometimes, but we've seen a lot of the cards that they're, the fundamental low casting cards. Have we seen Mana Worm?
No, we haven't seen
So it might be Mana Worm, there may be something else as well. But we've seen Fireball, we've seen Frostbolt, we've seen all the standard cards for the low end of the curve.
You're right, when you think about it that way.
With Arcane Intellect in hand.
To
draw more stuff.
I don't think we've seen a barrier, although they may just run one barrier. That's possible.
Yeah, that's also possible. Okay, so almost the last push coming here from Yorgmoth. Of course, Finland won't know there's a true silver in hand, but given that this card wasn't played and Consecration would be fine, they'll be suspicious.
Something to touch on there. Getaway Kodo is often the best card to take against the value matchups. However, against Mage, Eye for an Eye is actually a viable pick.
Right, very much so. This is a nod to the fact that Italy feel that because of their start, they might not even get to the Eye for an Eye range. They actually need more value just to get there. Obviously, a double Tyrion is good, and they're hoping that Tyrion doesn't get killed this turn, so they can suicide everything that doesn't matter and just put Getaway Kodo down and hope Polymorph doesn't happen.
It's so hard to make that play without it being really obvious, though, because if Yawgmoth does that, he sort of needs to do that and not hero power that turn.
Yeah, but so there's obvious and there's what you're going to do. Sometimes it just goes, even if it's face up, it's like, this is a Getaway Kodo, I have a Tyrion, do you have Polymorph? And if the answer is no, you've still got to kill the Tyrion.
Okay.
Or maybe you haven't. But,
yeah.
But it's still a problem you have to deal with.
There's the Meteor.
Yeah.
So Tyrion dies now, unfortunately, for Italy, which means they need to pick up something good right now. And that's not exactly what I had in mind.
No, although, of course, Tyrion does leave behind his Ashbringer, which is going to be hammering away at that health total, but it just seems to feel like Janetski's going to be a really good spot. He's got healing in hand of all things for a mage.
So we got 15 health in 3 turns, plus another 8 over the following 2 turns. That's okay, but then there's Ice Block, and then there's healing, and then there's Frostbolts to freeze the face as well. So as nice a plan as it is, it's not going to fall into place that easily.
Exactly. Mana Worm picked up, by the way. Kazakus is still green instead of yellow, which means that Kazakus is still not there, and we didn't think of something. But it's probably that ice barrier.
Yeah, that's true. Hopefully. Wouldn't it be nice to be right? It'd be nice.
I've never tried it.
It'd be nice if Ice Barrier gets picked up and it starts glowing yellow.
Would it?
I'd feel good about it.
Cool.
Anyway.
Let's do it for Dan and for Italy, Dan's native homeland country.
I mean, I'm British. Just got a little bit of blood in me.
Britalian.
Sure. I'll take it.
Okay, so just tidying up now, developing their board, doing all the obvious things that you do in Hearthstone fundamentally. Well, it was the Doppelgangster, which is the card I always get in this deck.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you'd get Bomb Squad.
No, I don't need to do that to lose.
Well, it looks like it doesn't matter for Janetsky. He's probably completely happy about this Doppelgangster here, because in a different situation, if he got the Doppelgangster, maybe he'd lose as a result. But he's so secure here. It's like, great, I'll take my bad Firelands Portal now. I'll save the good one for later on.
Yeah, sure, I'll go with that. Okay.
Doesn't quite work that way, but, you know.
This is really looking bad for Yorgmoth now. Obviously, that Getaway Kodo. You pointed out at the time that you may end up just getting something bad from it, and when you draw all your late game at the start of the game, the inverse happens later on. That's just how having things works. And now Italy are on the defensive with their aggressive deck. They've used their stewards, and they probably have a whole bunch of 2/1s that don't do much to come against Mage, who can just ping them off at will.
Antonidas, not a card that you commonly see in Discover Mage. We've seen some pretty weird techs in this deck today. Me and Raven saw a what's the card called? Mana Bind in the Discover Mage earlier. And now this is looking just much more reminiscent of a Freeze Mage. Obviously, Cabal Courier, though, and Mana Worm throws us off a little bit.
Right, it's interesting. Mage is all over the place again. As people are trying to add some consistency into the Discover Mage. I think everyone's aware that Discover Mage is good, but even the defenders of it will admit that sometimes it's a bit inconsistent, I feel. So everybody's scrambling to get that little last push to make the deck even better. Like everyone always does. We're a month into a meta and people are still developing and refining decks.
Yeah, multiple decks. There are so many tools now available. As Yorgmuth decides, enough's enough, I'm not drawing my stuff, Janetsky's going to take game number 2 for Finland, meaning that they are now 1-1 in the standings for the series.
Janetsky looking like the national champion that he is there. Very, very obviously I was going to win that. We're getting a few of those at the moment.
Obviously, Winland was going to win that.
Yeah.
But it's only 1-1, so we still have several games ahead of us in this, again, very important game for both Italy and Finland. 2-0 in the bracket for Italy, 1-1 in the bracket for Finland. Italy want to secure their progress into the next round, and Finland do not want to end up with more losses than wins.
Right, Wampy, Innovan.
We've swapped sides, Paladin and Mage.
Paladin and Mage, the rematch. Wampy, of course, like I said earlier, he was tweeting yesterday, he's come second in 3 consecutive Open, or 3 Cups in 6 days. He didn't say they were consecutive, but second 3 times in 6 days is enough to upset anybody, I think. And like I say, he rested ready for this game last night. Innovan, not somebody that a lot of people have heard of, but he is qualified again for the championships for spring, which is in a couple of weeks. He qualified for the championship last time around. He had 3 top 100 finishes at the start of the year.
Innovan is the grinder of the team. That's how Snowman described him to me. He's the anchor, so he's the guy that had the most HCT points in Italy. And he is, if there was a top pro player, hardcore, I play the best decks, I win the games, that's what Innovan is for Team Italy.
And there you go. His favourite Italian food is pizza and can eat it every day, all day. I know how he feels about that.
That's not how the phrase. It's not how the phrase goes, TJ. Every day, all day. It's all day, every day, isn't it?
I just keep eating it.
Okay. Yeah.
Doesn't really matter when it is or how you say it. Just get me more pizza.
So once again, Paladin versus Mage. Now we've seen multiple different types of Paladin as well as different types of Mage recently. What I would say is that at least on the ladder, the more popular Paladin in the last week or so have been the Control Paladins. We've seen a lot of Primordial Drakes with the qualities. We've seen some N'Zoth. We've seen a lot of healing. Now that sort of deck would probably do much better against the Discover Mage.
Yeah, just the longer you can go, the better, to some degree, as long as you've got the healing.
And if you can heal after Alex Straza, exactly, like if they play Alex Straza and you can deal with it and counter with your Ragnaros Lightlord, then how does the Discover Mage win from that point?
Yeah, we've seen Leon Hands coming back into a few decks as well. Fell out of favour for a while. People started playing Ivory Knight, and then, I mean, some people play both, don't get me wrong, but I think people realise that Ivory Knight's not quite the healing powerhouse it used to be. You don't heal for 10 from it ever anymore, for instance, and that has a filter-through effect, so a lot of the time you're healing for not much. And the cards are kind of mediocre from Ivory Knight as well a lot of the time. Well,
there's Dino Size, which can be relevant in some hysterical ways. But it looks like it's not going to be a heavy Control Paladin from Wampy here, as we see Murloc Tidecaller and Murloc Warleader both in hand. Curator could well be present, though, along with the Stampeding Kodo.
Seems very likely. For Italy, it is going to be Discover Mage. I haven't seen Ice Barrier in any version of Secret Mage.
It could be Freeze Mage still.
It could still be Freeze Mage, indeed.
As Medivh's Valet has almost come in as the replacement for Ice Lance ever since Journey to Ungoro. It's not quite the 4 damage, 0 mana powerhouse that it could be in the past with Thaurissan, but it's 6 extra damage in the deck.
It's even more than that as well, because if he comes down turn 2 sometimes, well, not turn 2, but he comes down turn 4 a lot, sneaky 2 damage here and there can add up at the end of the game in freeze.
Hello, Sorcerer's Apprentice. It is the Discover Mage, but again, for the 3rd time in a row today, it's a Discover Mage with some very different text to what we've been used to in the last few weeks.
Very interesting, because Sorcerer's Apprentice is played in probably 2/3 even of Secret Mages. It is just not that great a card, somehow, in this environment. And yet, when we've seen Tempo Mage in the past, Sorcerer's Apprentice was like a must-kill minion.
Yeah, right. We were talking about the power of the deck earlier, as we saw Ginger playing Sorcerer's Apprentice in Secret Mage, and the amount of work that it got done just on turn 4, like with Primordial Glyph and Counterspell and Mirror Image all coming together on one turn. The card is powerful, and again, mentioning Primordial Glyph, if you've got Sorcerer's Apprentice on the board on turn 2, you play Glyph on turn 3, you're actually able to play a spell which costs more mana than what turn you're currently on, just because of how it works with both cards getting the synergy with the Apprentice. It's crazy combo.
Talking of crazy, this hand from Finland is not all in, but they can do a heck of a lot with this hand.
Yeah, and there's no way at the moment for Italy to clear the 1-2.
Yeah, and you just don't want to throw out a Sorcerer's Apprentice knowing that she's going to just die, but if you don't, when do you play her? Like, you want to just stem off the aggression from this deck, and Sorcerer's Apprentice, I think the option may have been just to play Valet and just not have the ability function, because a 2/3 is better than a 3/2 by a margin in this spot.
Yeah, that being said, Medivh's Valet seems to be more important for Discover Mage generally than the Sorcerer's Apprentice, and therefore, I guess the thinking is, if I have to sacrifice one of these cards without getting the effect, I guess I'm sacrificing Sorcerer's Apprentice.
Yeah, this isn't obvious either, by the way. So if you play the Eldar Peacekeeper, you don't kill the Sorcerer's Apprentice, but your Murloc lives. You also leave up the Apprentice for bad 4-drop things to happen. But how many are there? There's Fireball. Polymorph's just not even a consideration. There's not many. If you play the War Leader, which is the natural play and the one I suspect we'll see, then your guy doesn't live.
Yeah, and again, that may be something that Innovant was thinking about when he went with the Sorcerer's Apprentice over the Medivh's Valet.
Right.
Obviously, a 3/2 trades better against a 4/3 than a 2/3 does.
Yeah, he'd have been scared of Hydrologist, which is why they'd have thought for so long. Just Hydrologist trade, we just lose everything. Okay, discovering some stuff.
So, Volcanic Potion. Probably the best pick here by a little ways. Cruel isn't going to do anything. It's a 9-mana 7/9. Temple Enforcer could be okay. It could make up for this deck's kind of lack of mid to late game. However, Volcanic Potion, you've seen there's 2 early Murlocs on the board already. Volcanic Potion is a good card for dealing with early Murlocs.
Yeah, I feel that Volcanic Potion will be the pick that they make, and I feel that it's not a mistake, and I feel that it's the wrong pick.
So
I think they'll think this deck is probably a little bit more Murloc heavy than we can see.
So you like the Temple Enforcer?
I think I like the 6-drop here for later on, but Volcanic Potion, I think, is the thing you should take, given what Italy have seen here.
Yeah, I agree with you. They're taking a long time to decide. This wasn't a snap pick, which for a lot of players it would have been. Eventually, they do opt to go for the Volcanic Potion. They're hoping that next turn they're going to be able to deal with whatever 1P puts down. Unbeknownst to Innovant, there's no other Murlocs playable in 1P's hand at the moment. So his side of the board slowing down a little bit.
And there's just nothing with 2 health in his hand at all. There's not one card in 1P's hand that has 2 health. So the Volcanic Potion, it'll still do damage. It'll still do chunks of damage.
Yeah.
If you do 2 damage to 5 minions, you've done 10 damage.
Yeah.
That's how Lorinda maths works. But it's still not killing many things. It will kill off this War Leader, though.
And it doesn't look like Italy have much choice. Cabal Courier is an option to play this turn. I guess you could play that, let the Outdoor Peacekeeper trade into it, and then Volcanic Potion away the board next turn. However, there is this looming threat of the Gentle Megasaur, and even if that only hits Murloc War Leader, it's still a very strong card.
Makes you wonder if they could have played this differently, like Valet sitting hand doing nothing. But as soon as they draw a secret, that Valet will become incredibly powerful.
Yeah, and that's what they're going to be banking on at the moment. Cabal Courier comes down, as we mentioned before. Antonidas is a pick. Maybe they've been convinced by how well the Antonidas did in last game. Cabal Trafficker, also very good. Again, it's one of these mid to late game minions like the Temple Enforcer, but this one picks you up value over time, which is something that the Discover Mage will benefit from.
Whenever someone plays Trafficker against you in Discover Mage, your instinct is, oh my god, what do I do?
Yeah.
Whether they've got the time to get there is going to be how they're working it out. But I feel that's the card they will want to be taking. Obviously, Archmage is fantastic, but if you start to get rid of all the Murlocs, you don't need a million Fireballs. Yeah, they go with the Trafficker. They feel that this is just going to be better to occupy the board. And the Demons are pretty good over... You get one, because it dies that turn.
I like it. You don't really think that you'll need the extra damage from the Antonidas,
right.
Nor are you guaranteed to actually get the extra Fireballs. Yeah, okay, you can pick up a Glyph at some point, but you probably want to play that straight away. You're not playing a deck where you can afford to hold on to the Primordial Glyph until it's Antonidas time.
Yeah, and again, that Glyph... Noticeable by its absence right now, they could do with picking it up soon to try and get a secret as much as anything.
Meanwhile, on the other side of the board, a second Murloc War Leader has been picked up. But Wampy's going to be a little bit greedy here by the looks of things. He's considering playing the Outer Peacekeeper, trading into the 1-2, and just dominating the board at this early stage in the game.
Yeah, his plan is going to be, if he goes with that route, because of the Finger, is to get Finger to kill something, pull a load of stuff out, and then drop the Megasaur on the same turn, and the stuff you pull out will just be automatically, completely and utterly ridiculous at that point.
So yeah, it looks like he is going to go for the Outer Peacekeeper, trading in the other Outer Peacekeeper. This plays right into the Volcanic Potion, which we know that Innoven's got. Wampy isn't expecting it. That being said, it's not an uncommon card for Discover Mage anyway, Volcanic Potion. Now this turn, Volcanic Potion and Ping will deal with everything. Innoven may decide he needs to be a little bit more proactive on this board, but I don't think so. I think this is too clean. Yeah,
it's too clean, and even though it deals with Wampy's board, Wampy not surprised, and it's a whole turn gone. Wampy can now just put things back on the board, depending how he wants to do it. Imagine we'll just
look at that.
Yeah, Insta-Finger.
That's like the fastest turn you've ever seen in the Hearthstone Global games.
It probably is. Yeah, I didn't recognise a turn without the rope. Okay, Ice Barrier.
So Cabal Trafficker is probably quite tempting. If there was no way of Finger getting rid of it, then that would be great. Though we can see there is Sunkeeper Tarim ready to go and make for a very nice
Also, we'll be scared of Blessing of Kings as well, which they were playing themselves. And when you play a card yourself, for some reason, no matter how much you try and be logical, you're more scared of it than if you don't play that card yourself.
Yeah, I don't think you expect an equality. You're right, Blessing of Kings, Sunkeeper Tarim. I think they're the only two. Oh, and True Silver Champion would also allow for...
Sure, yeah, there's plenty of ways for Paladin to do before it turns out. On the other hand, there's the other point of view, which is, how desperate are we? And the answer at the moment is not that desperate.
Yeah, Mage is doing fine. 27 health with an Ice Barrier in hand. Perfectly acceptable position to be in. Very soon, Medivh's going to come down, and that will dominate the board. It's just going to be a case of, can I clear away this board of Murlocs, which, thanks to Primordial Glyph, you probably can. It's the Unlicensed Apothecary. I can't say that word. I've been teased through it before. The Unlicensed Apothecary there to cause Innoven some damage, depending on how he plays it. Maybe you don't want to play that and then play the ATS. Seems wrong.
That does indeed seem kind of awkward. Okay, so Finland, just working out, do we really want to get one lot of stuff from our Finger? And the problem is, if you do that, you don't get to... Like, if you do the play with the Sunkeeper Tarim, you don't get to use the Megasaurs this turn, and you're walking into Flame Strike turn or similar, or Flame Strike's turn, pretty much specifically, in fairness. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's too greedy to hold on to Finger and try and get more than one value. As usual, two Murlocs that do nothing.
They do nothing, but next turn, War Leader and Megasaur is a really legitimate, massive threat.
If they survive until next turn. Firelands Portal doesn't really do enough. Could this be time for Primordial Glyph? How desperate is Innoven to get rid of these cards?
I mean, you get rid of one. You can just Ice Barrier and Valet. So you Glyph first, see what you pick up. Volcanic Potion, Cone of Cold.
Or Ice Block. There is healing. Well, there is healing in the form of the Ice Barrier. I don't know. I don't think Ice Block's good enough against this deck.
Possibly not.
It's one of those situations where it's like, great, it buys you one more turn.
But they've got Alexstrasza and Firelands in hand. They're not many pieces away from just going, I'm going to keep Ice Blocking forever and start picking up Burn, but this seems a lot better.
I like the Volcanic Potion a lot here. And yeah, Medivh's Valet nicely dealing with the Rockpool Hunter, leaving Wampy with only one Murloc. And yeah, he can play Murloc War Leader and Gentle Megasaur. That might have to be the play, but though that's heavily playing into Flame Strike.
Again, depending what you adapt into, you can adapt into plants, you can adapt into health, you can adapt into divine shield. That's 3 chances to play around flame strike there.
Okay. 1P taking his time here, considering not playing the Megasaur, though it seems like quite an obvious play. Just checking with his team, is this where we're going? We've played the War Leader now. We've kind of committed.
I'm wondering if he was just pretending he had a choice between a Megasaur or Megasaur to Italy there.
Pretending he had the choice between 2 Megasaurs.
Just to show that he hasn't got 2 Megasaurs in his hand.
Ah, okay, okay.
He's like, oh, should I play this card or this card? They're both a Megasaur.
Okay, I like it. The mind game, sure, why not? Because that's something Italy might even talk about amongst themselves. I wonder what that second card is. 3-6, 3-7. Forget what I said before about Flame Strike. This has played around Flame Strike. Not that it even matters at the moment. It's actually a really hard board for Innovan to deal with.
It is for now. This is one of those boards where sometimes you deal with it by winning the game. Like, at some point you go, okay, it's time to give up. Not yet, because they've got enough stuff, but at some point they may just consider, okay, let's just ignore all this garbage.
Yeah, well, that starts with an Alex Strasser, but before then, we're still on turn 8. Medivh the Guardian could come down. How afraid are you? 1 War Leader's already gone, so it's not like you're afraid of that, but obviously we know there's a second Gentle Megasaur there. What can it do? Wind Fury.
Yeah, exactly.
Wind Fury is an extra 6 damage on the board, so that's, what's 21 total? Extra attack would also be an extra 6 damage, so that's also 21 total. I don't think there's any way that 1P wins this turn, so I quite like just playing Medivh from Innovan there.
Oh, and that Ragnaros Light Lord obviously is an enormous pickup in the context of the game, because that now gives 1P license to start doing stuff and not worry so much about Alex Strasser wins. Now he can just concentrate on keeping the board together, and if he does keep the board together, he knows that he's got every chance of winning.
Okay, holding the second Gentle Megasaur there. 1P is ready to just go for it, it looks like.
See what they get.
Wind Fury looks pretty good. Granted, it's not as good as it is on Vicious Fledgling, which we experienced earlier, but still...
Vicious Fledgling.
Still pretty good. Putting Innovan down to 12 health if he chooses to. Consecration and Trade is another option.
Yeah, I think that's the better option, because why let this 7-7 start wreaking havoc when you can get 2 damage in anyway, get rid of this, and you're still representing lethal with these flying Super Murlocs.
Now, we were saying something about Innovan just being ready to go ahead and win the game in the next few turns, though Alex Strasser is unplayable now. Play that and he loses. Mana Worm not going to help too much either. Firelands Portal Volcanic Potion might be the play, but I don't... Yeah, that's just about enough if he gets rid of the
yeah, I guess. I mean, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. That was very well vocalized, Neil. I agree with the sentiment.
Yeah, I speak from my heart. I say ugh.
There's no pirates here. They're Murlocs.
Don't make me say ah. Anyway, lots of options and none of them look good. So you then start to have to default to which is the one where we don't die.
What about Polymorph, Volcanic Potion, Frostbolt?
Polymorph, yep, that clears a lot of stuff. You take 8 next turn. You know they're not going to burst you down most of the time. Sure.
Firelands Portal Ping the War Leader puts the Valfin Inquisitor down as to a 1/6. Which would mean you're just about alive, but this just feels safer. You'd have lost to any burn damage with my play. Well, there was a big taunt on the board for a second there.
Yeah, it's not going to last very long in the face of this Kodo.
Well, that said, there's actually 3 minions on the board now that that all have less than, well, 2 or less attack.
Oh my goodness, they can get Kodo from Hydrologist and then get it onto the Ragnaros. It's going to be so difficult for Italy to actually just ever win.
Yeah, what looked like it was going to be a really strong game for Italy. The Gentle Megasaurs and the War Leaders all working together seems to have just completely overpowered Innovan.
It does. It's definitely not over. If the Alex Strasser has to trade into the Ragnaros and there's no getaway Kodo, for instance, or the Hydrologist can't kill itself somehow, there's definitely things that can go very weird here. But it does look like, you know, Finland are going to be able to just keep the pressure up. They're going to have enough time to keep pressing that hero power button for one thing.
There's that Kodo you were talking about a moment ago.
Okay. Do you want to play Repentance at some point going into Alexstrasza? Say, the only way we lose this is if they play Alexstrasza, so we play Repentance going into that turn and ping it off and we win.
Okay.
They chose not to, but that's something they would have considered rather than the snap pick I was discussing.
Right, Valfin Inquisitor trading in to the Youthful Brewmaster twice. Wompy playing the completely a control game here, and it looks like it's about to backfire as Innovan has Firelands Portal. He's able to ping away the 3-1 and trade into the 1-1, leaving just Hydrologist alive for Finland.
Yeah, and they will get a board. Will this be good? It usually is. That's the point of playing it.
4-4?
That'll do.
That's about average, isn't it?
Yeah, slightly below, but it'll do. If only I'd read Sottl's stats, I'd have known what average was. Okay.
He picks up Stonehill Defense. Wow, what a huge draw for... Not quoting anyone specifically.
Sure, no, of course not.
But it is a huge draw. Tyrion Fordering now being a huge possibility to come down next turn. Ragnar Slightlord going to be appearing instead. Wompy putting that there, saying, okay, you've got to deal with this twice, or deal with Hydrologist twice, and then probably deal with Tyrion twice later on as well.
I like what you and Raven always say, oh, you've probably got to deal with Tyrion. If I play Stonehill Defender, you've got to deal with another, I don't know, just some guy, a 0-7 or something.
Another Meshogu Warden.
Yeah, I mean, you and Raven are like, yeah, just got Pyroblast from Glyphs, and I get, obviously going to get another Tyrion. That's just not my experience of this game.
We've seen a lot of pretty poor Stonehill Defenders over the last few days, actually. Earlier on today with the Shaman, it was just... the option that was chosen was Veclaw. It's a 7-mana 4/7 that does nothing.
Right. I mean, in fairness, with the class bonus, I do meme a bit. With the class bonus and everything, in Paladin in particular, you are likely to get one of the 3 really good legendaries.
Yeah.
So.
Counterspell, worth considering. Mirror Entity, worth considering if you think there's a Tyrion, but that one seems too risky. I like Counterspell here from Italy, though it doesn't seem good.
I like Mirror.
It's not one of the best options. He likes Mirror as well.
Yeah, Mirror just, like you said, that Tyrion defense, but whatever they play, you can mirror it, which means that you're likely to... now you know it's a Kodo, you might wait.
A Hydrologist, yeah.
Sorry, yeah.
Oh.
Why did I just say Kodo randomly?
You just really like Kodos.
But yeah, you do want to just mirror something big.
Well, Innovan now down to 7 health. Consecration would put him down to 5. Something like a Tyrion for Wompy here would be pretty crippling for Italy. But these are Lorinda options.
Yeah,
these are.
I'm used to these options. In fact, these are probably even worse than usual. I don't think I've ever had anything quite this horrific. Yeah, Wambi looks thoroughly disgusted with this.
Hang on a moment, because Cyclopean, if I can say the word, Cyclopean Horror is a Sentient Shieldmaster right now.
Yeah, sure. I mean, they can play it this turn as well. But
Gonna go with the Tentacle, though.
that means they've got a use for all of their mana. It means they're intending to probably consecrate. They might want to Hydrologist and Hero Power, but there's no reason to pick the smaller thing unless you're thinking of using all your mana, as far as I can see.
Just another getaway Kodo for Infinite Valley,
Right.
why not?
Oh, yeah, this is where the extra mana is going to be spent. And now Italy have got it all to do.
Getaway Kodo on Stonehill Defender. Gonna try and re-roll that. Wanna get a better...
They don't think we're rolling anything. They're going to just win next turn. They're not, because Alexstrasza defensive face, blah, blah, blah.
In fact, Alexstrasza plus Mirror Entity is playable. The problem is that the Mirror Entity is only going to pick up a Squirming Tentacle. Innovan's hoping that it's a Tyrion. It's not a Tyrion. It's definitely not a Tyrion.
Yeah, and it seems unlikely that Finland would play into it, even if it was a Tyrion, unless you could force them to, which they don't seem to be able to. They've just got no choice but to Alexstrasza's own face, I don't think. Because they're on 5, and they've got no way of stopping 5 from being done. I guess you can play the Archanologist and try and find a block. It would be another option.
Yes, that's true. That's how Innovan can stall for at least 1 extra turn. Gonna go with the Alexstrasza though. At least this contests Ragnar's life.
Right, and then you go for the Archanologist and try and get your block next turn.
Feels pretty sad for Innovan because he knows that this Mirror Entity is probably going to pick up a Stonehill Defender. Although at least it's a taunt, I guess.
Yeah, Wumpy may just decide if it's mirror entity, he doesn't care. Let's have a think.
Just go ahead and play the Curator.
I mean, I think the players Stonehill Defender into Curator. You might as well play around all the secrets. Somebody on the team will have spotted that this secret is not part of the deck. It's a card that has appeared from a glyph.
It only costs 1 mana. That's the big tell, isn't it?
Of course, that as well makes it easier, yeah.
But when you're playing the game, that's something you look out for. Like sometimes your opponent makes a really fast play, includes multiple spells, and you check like, okay, that costs that much. Was that secret from the deck, or was it? Okay, it costs 1 mana. Okay, sure, it's from Glow.
And they do everything correctly.
Okay, Gravity Protector, not a premium pick from the Stonehill Defender, but it'll do.
Yeah, it's the card you end up with when you get a bad bunch usually. And now Wampy they're choosing to trade, by the way, which means he thinks he's in the driving seat. If they thought they were behind, if they thought they were in any sort of trouble at all, they'd have just started going face. But the power of the Curator just means that he is in that driving seat, and so no need to let the Mage, you know, hit you for 8 with Alex Stras, then burn you for 10 or something. Suddenly you're in trouble you don't deserve to be in.
Okay. Innovan hanging in there, not close to getting this ice block popped just yet, though he doesn't appear to have a win condition. That seems to be the problem. Yeah,
but then this deck never does. Although they have run out of glyphs and stuff for a lot. They haven't run out, but they haven't had many stuff left to...
Yeah, Medivh's gone. Yep. Alex Straza's gone.
Yeah.
There's a Pyroblast, but that deals 1/3 of Wampy's health total.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at this Tyrion and thinking, how on earth can Italy ever get out of this one now? That Curator is just absolutely backbreaking. It's filled a handful of really good cards, which was going to buy time for this Tyrion at the very worst. Anyway, didn't need to buy the time, just drew it straight away. And I think we may even see Innovan. I don't think we will see him concede, but I think we'll see him look for Discover effects for a turn or two, and then he'll probably be dead.
Put your faith in the light.
Are you sure he won't concede over this?
I mean, Discover into something is always in your mind if you're not, you know, why concede?
Yeah. No, you're right. There's no reason to. The only reason to is tilt. And that's not actually a reason to. It's just an involuntary reaction.
They're clearing this up. I mean...
I'll tell you who won't be tilting anymore, and that's Wampy. After, as you mentioned before...
Unless he loses.
His multiple second place results in the Open Cups. Doesn't look like he's going to lose this. He's going to be feeling a little bit better about Hearthstone again right now.
Yeah. I'm sure he felt absolutely fine when he woke up this morning. It was just literally... I've watched a lot of people when they play Open Cups, and when you get second or when you get in the semi-finals or something, because of the nature of the points where you've got to win them if you're really seriously going for the HCT points, some of the players do find it a little bit stressful at times, but that's why they actually get to championship events when they win them, because you're supposed to win them.
You're supposed to win them. You're supposed to care about winning them as well.
Exactly.
Primordial Drake going to just put up a little barrier, just preventing the unlicensed apothecary from getting through. Does it matter?
I mean, it matters, but I don't know how much. I imagine you go for redemption. My reasoning... Oh, basically, yeah, okay. My reasoning for that is just that it's more card advantage. Repentance was also an option in case there's a card you've forgotten about in there.
Yeah, it's very unlikely that Innovan clears either minion on the board anyway now, but if he just about musters the power to get rid of the Drake, he's then got to get rid of it again. Redemption seems like a very strong pick.
And muster, of course, only available in Wild, so he's not going to muster up much at all.
Oh dear. Oh boy.
Well, you know, someone has to say these things.
No,
and unfortunately, it has to be me.
Nobody has to say these things, and it doesn't have to be you.
You're never going to convince me. Alright, Sorcerer's Apprentice Fireball taking on a whole bunch of stuff. In fairness, Wampy is running out of things, but it looks like he's going to be able to keep the hate coming for long enough. If we go through mentally like what might be left in Wampy's deck, it's just a bunch of really small Murlocs.
Yep, you're absolutely right. Rag's gone, Tyrion's gone. I think both Stonehill defenders are gone.
Yeah.
Maybe just one.
Finger's gone.
Finger's gone.
And we haven't seen many of the small things.
I don't think we've seen a Bluegill Warrior, for example.
Right.
So you're right, there's very small stuff. So if Innovan could somehow stabilize, prevent all of this incoming damage, stop the Ashbringer, And that's the biggest.
Oh, there is another stone hill. Okay.
And that's the biggest thing. It's the Ashbringer. Ashbringer just represents so much damage over time, which a lot of decks aren't capable of just putting a stop to.
Yeah, and here we go with that damage. Just punch you in the face, put the block, make you find the damage. It's going to be very difficult. Obviously, keeping that Sorcerer's Apprentice, if they are going to win this game, by the way, it would be in a way where they go Sorcerer's Apprentice into, say, something into something else. Sorcerer's Apprentice, block, pyro you in the face, you put my block, I draw a fireball.
Or a second Pyroblast at this
I
point.
realise that's too much mana, but the Sorcerer's Apprentice is key in all the combos that will set up you be able to win in more than one turn. But
I think next turn, Innovan probably just plays the Sorcerer's Apprentice, lets the Unlicensed Apothecary do its thing.
Seems reasonable.
That's the best way to go out in this position. Only Ice Block lets him survive, but he's not making any progress if he does it.
Yeah, I think he's going to do your play here.
No, I didn't make my play. That's disappointing.
And that's the end of that. And Finland take a 2-1 lead.
1P. Looking a bit frozen, but feeling good, I'm sure.
Talking of looking frozen, how was Snowman earlier?
Well, he's coming later.
Oh, he's coming later, sorry.
He's
I was paying.
He's actually the next player. Oh, he's one of the next two players for Team Italy, yeah.
So we're not meant to mention Frozen when Snowman's playing?
No. I hadn't even thought about it, but 1P freezing, and it's just a disaster.
He specifically tells us not to mention Frozen, and Dan set me up.
Okay, the next player, obviously, because there's only one player left for Team Italy. We've got Ursi coming up for Finland and Snowman coming up for Italy.
Ursi, second DreamHack Winter 2015, yet another member of this Finnish old guard. And you know, Snowman, talking earlier, he's played 3 HCT events last season, so he's still coming through, and he has got 3 2-2 finishes in those events.
Meanwhile, I believe he's currently studying for a master's degree in economics.
Master's degree in economics.
Yeah. So that's he's smart.
Damn it.
He's got brains. Now, another thing I want to point out is that Finland just won Mage versus Paladin and then won Paladin versus Mage.
Right.
So they actually won both ends of that matchup. Though, as I said, Finland's Paladin was more controlly and therefore better against the Mage. They piled on so much pressure and just did a really good job.
Talking of Snowman again with the points, 45 points last season. That's how he got into those 3 different HCT playoffs, or preliminaries as they were then. And there we go, we see the comment about the DreamHack for Ursi. He lost to Purple, who we'll be seeing last up today in that Canada versus Denmark clash.
Snowman doesn't want to build a snowman, so stop asking, Vice.
You set me up.
Do you know what? I considered trying to sing that then, and then decided that would be the worst move I've made in my life.
That would definitely be a bad thing. For you, I'd love it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, everyone else would enjoy it a lot, but if production would start throwing things, I think.
Okay. Ursi with this Shaman deck versus the Druid, a lot of this depends on exactly what the Druid is. If the Druid is aggressive, no matter what Shaman it is, I fancy that the Shaman will just win fairly easily.
It tends to be one of the harder matchups for the Token Druid, just because it's like Maelstrom Portal, Lightning Storm. If the Druid runs Bitterhide Hydra, then Volcano, it tends to be a pretty strong card. And then Devolve for Living Mana. There's just so much going for the Shaman in that matchup. If it's Jade, though, it's much closer.
Yeah, I've had various discussions with people about the Jade deck. I think that Jade is favoured against Shaman, personally, but I think it's build dependent on the Shaman. The Shaman has so many different things it can do. If it's playing its own Jades, and Devolve's not a good tool, but if it's playing its own removal and it's playing its own Jades, it can get itself into a position where it goes toe-to-toe. If it's playing an even slower version, then sometimes the Shaman can actually be okay. Oddly enough, it just turns out that bringing back 7/8s over and over again can be too much even for Jade sometimes. Yeah,
well, I mean, Jades do this. They just get bigger and bigger, and eventually they can beat the 7/8s, but they can't beat the 7/8s too early. Forget all talk of Jade, though. It's going to be that bad matchup for the Druid. Snowman, he's got a lot to fight for here. He wants this 3rd win for his team in his group. He wants to basically be on the verge of qualifying already.
Yeah.
He wants to win this game. It might not happen.
Like I say, he's going to have to want a bit longer, I think. Good-looking hand, though. He's got decisions to make already with this tricky-looking mulligan. Some of the stats say that Finger is a very, very good card to keep in some circumstances as the Druid, and this might be one of those circumstances where you've got the innovating coin already, so you can play Finger on turn 2, hope that Finland don't keep Devolve, which they did not, because why do you want to devolve a load of 1/1s into 1/1s? And just go for it with Finger and see what happens.
As correctly predicted, Innovate and Finger kept by Snowman. That seems to be his win condition, already acknowledged. Firefly being picked up turn 1, that's pretty convenient. Or he could just go ahead and play the Hungry Crab. Crab is better for the Druid, sort of, because it has the synergy with Mark of your Siraj.
Right.
That being said, it may be better to save it until you've drawn a Mark of your Siraj, so you know that you've got something that you can get the draw off of later.
And are you all in on the turn 2 Finger plan? Because I think I am.
I am. You want Finland to play something. If they don't even just totem up on turn 2, then suddenly the Finger plan is a little bit worse, because if Ursi just never plays anything, then Finger never summons any Murlocs.
So are they going to be Finland or are they going to be Fingerland? Let's see if they press that button or if they actually just Jade Claws.
But that would still summon a minion.
And then they'd be Fingerland, like this. I see, the Jade Claws as well, yeah.
Very, very good for Snowman. Now he can coin, innovate, Finger, and have something that's traded into. Worked out perfectly. We'll just have to see if it continues to work out perfectly. Of course, Token Druid is one of the decks where Finger works particularly well, as Bluegill Warriors and Murloc Warleaders are the only other Murlocs.
Right, they're using the old package that people grew to love back when Rogue was doing it, maybe.
And you
I
loathe.
was going to say 6 months ago, it's like 6 weeks ago.
Other people grew to loathe it.
Yeah, very much so.
I know you did. I've always loved Finger. I don't think it's the strongest it's ever been right now. However, in this position, it does look like a powerhouse. Snowman smiling there. This could be the card that carries him and Italy into the ace match.
Interesting to see how Finland even try and deal with this. If they had last turn just pressed the hero power, this turn they would at least be able to play the taunt and get in the way of the Finger and make things a little bit awkward, although Savage Roar would still sort it. But this time around, they have no outs other than to just, hit you for 1 and shut our eyes and hope it goes away.
Oh my goodness, what a draw from Snowman there as well. He's able to dump his hand, play the Hungry Crab, play the Flame Elemental, trade Finger in, and then buff up everything. It's even kind of strong against a Lightning Storm.
Yeah, they're going to want to play this Mark of the Lotus because, like you say, they're going to be a little bit worried of that Lightning Storm. Because if this lot gets wiped out, you end up in a mess. And they do get the ideal pickup there, I think.
That's what we're used to with Finger. That's what Finger does. Question is, does he trade this? He may feel as though he has to, because it's a way of playing around Lightning Storm. It prevents Finger and the War Leader from being under as much threat.
I mean, if your opponent can't kill Finger, because you've buffed it up with Mark the Lotus, you've buffed it up with the War Leader, there we go.
Of course, the Hungry Crab also eats up the Bluegill Warrior.
And your opponent can't play anything because Finger will fetch more stuff. What did your opponent actually do? Not a great deal. They're just going to eat a whole bunch of damage.
Yeah, Ursi has 2 Igneous Elementals in his hand. This is obviously a very heavy Elemental Shaman build. Again, running Flame Tongue Totem, which isn't something that we usually see in these heavier builds. But unfortunately, Igneous Elemental, as we've seen a lot in Quest Rogue recently, its 2/3 body isn't really worth much.
I mean, this whole hand at this exact moment isn't worth a great deal. But depending on how much healing there is in this deck, and it looks like it could be a lot from the hand we can see, even though this feels like it's all over, and I don't think it is quite.
No. It's a shame that Snowman's hand is so difficult here. Savage Roar has to be the obvious play. When are you guaranteed again to get 8 extra damage from the Savage Roar? Puts Ursi down to 6. Druid of the Claw in hand, Swipe in hand. Finland has to heal, and if they're healing, they're not doing much else.
All right, this Flame Tongue Totem is going to be able to... Yeah, this is really good from Italy. The Flame Tongue Totem was one of the outs there where they could have traded into the War Leader. Italy recognising that and just clearing up the board, and that leaves Finland with just no options other than to drop a taunt, heal up, and do they die? Are they 1 off? They'll be on 11 and they're going to take 10.
Well, no, Yeah, you're right.
Plus, they might roll a Taunt Totem as well.
Yeah, you're right. I think it ends up with Snowman being one off. There's still ways that he can win next turn. He could pick up the second mark of the Lotus, for example. Play that with Swipe. Boom, there's the lethal. There are things that Snowman can do. He has to win the game before Calamus comes down.
Right.
That's kind of the game that's being played at the moment.
Yeah, Finland here are taking so long because they're trying to work out what do we do. So what's our top of our deck? Well, there's quite a few removal spells in our deck. If this 4/4 can even injure this crab here, maybe they can pick up removal.
It is lethal because swiping the minion deals 4 damage to it and 1 to the face, and then the minions
Good spot.
pick it up. I knew I was missing something there. I could feel it wasn't quite right.
I was looking at the Druid of the Claw all along, so that's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. 2-all, Italy taking it down, making it look easy with that token Druid, but trust me, that is not an easy matchup if you don't play turn 2 Finja.
We just spent about 5 minutes claiming the matchup was very, very hard for the Druid, but as you said, Finja, Innovate, Coin, well, not in that order, Innovate, Coin, Finja on turn 2 into Bluegill and War Leader. Big board. Then the Mark of the Lotus as well made the board even bigger. It's one of those games that Token Druid can do against any deck where they've just created a huge board by turn 4 and their opponent, even if it's got board clears, just isn't able to play them yet.
Yeah, Caster forgetting the one swipe there. Saved by Dan, but hey. 2-2, we go into the ace match, which means that the players that played earlier will get to add an extra deck to their collection, which means they've got 2 to choose from again.
Right.
And we're going to see Hunter versus Warlock. That time old what? Hey? Hunter versus Warlock.
Second Warlock of the day. This is surprising. Just to explain that a little bit further, the ace player for each team plays a second time if the series goes to the 5th in the best out of 5. So the ace player will have picked 2 decks to represent them earlier, and then the decks that they've got for the ace match is the deck that they didn't play earlier, or the 9th deck that hasn't already been represented by one of the other players. So that's the choice that they had. Hunter and Warlock. Now, Warlock often appears in the ace decks, as we said, right at the start of the series, because the players don't expect to always get to the ace match, and so they just shove Warlock in there because it probably won't be relevant. However, Warlock is relevant, very relevant here, as Innovan comes back, and he's going to play it.
Yeah, just to plug in one more time, Innovan will be in the Spring Championships later in the month. He picked up 25 HCT points. That was good for top 47. Also, Janetsky will be in that event as well. He picked up 26 HCT points. So if you're enjoying this matchup, you can follow those 2 guys later in the month on this channel at the HCT European Spring Playoffs.
Yep, some of the best players in the world for both Finland and Italy. I know there's a lot of national pride for these guys on both sides. Finland, with their huge community, the lands, the training, the players, the Finnish players that aren't competing in the global games, they want Finland to do well. They really want to put Finland on the Hearthstone map. Italy, very, very similar. These guys all play for the same team. They're the biggest esports team in Italy, and chances are the Italian players, they all know who this team is. Several of these guys stream in Italian as well, and you tend to get that with the countries where the top players stream in their own language. Very, very community-based. They want to see the people that speak their language doing very well.
Yeah, and again, Finland, the community knows so well because they've been around for so long as established players. A lot of them made their names at events like Assembly back in the day as well, when that was a pretty big event for a while. And Italy just starting to get HCT players. As see a pretty good zoo hand, and pretty good zoo hands traditionally do okay against Hunter, but Hunter is capable of setting up taunts and awkward situations with hyenas at the moment. Yeah,
the other problem with Hunter is that they have a hero power that interacts pretty well against the Warlock hero power.
Right.
Every time the Warlock taps, takes some damage, draws a card, the Hunter hits that button, deals 2 more damage to the Warlock, and so on the game goes, halving the speed in which it takes the Hunter to wipe out the Warlock. So really, Innovan's not going to be wanting to use his hero power. That being said, the Flame Imps that he's kept also help speed up the Hunter's win condition.
Yeah, back in the day, people started cutting Flame Imps from this deck because of the Hunter was so dominant. But now, actually, 3/2's a decent shape against a lot of Hunter minions. You get a lot of 1/1s, and you need to be able to challenge that hyena a lot of the time as well.
Ooh, Knife Juggler, I think, makes this a little bit easier for Innovan here. I was wondering if you wanted to just play 1 Flame Imp and hold the coin for Councilman next turn. Now I'm thinking it's probably double Flame Imp and save Knife Juggler for next turn. Or if he wants to be greedy, he could coin out the Knife Juggler, wait, and play double Flame Imp next turn. Although I think that's a little bit too greedy.
Yeah, it's a difficult decision to make because of basically Direwolf Alpha would just kill off the Juggler and off you go.
Yeah.
He's going to play both Flame Imps by the look of it. Yep.
Yeah, you're right. Direwolf Alpha would have been a huge punish. It's still pretty horrible if there is a Direwolf. Crackling Razormaw also would be a pretty horrible card in this position. Poisonous or attack, or even really Death Rattle, summon the plants would be bad.
In a format where there's a lot of 1-1s, 1-2s and 1-3s now, Flame Imp is suddenly a lot better than it used to be.
Yeah. Direwolf Alpha, you called it. It just appeared from the Jeweled Macaw as if answering your call. Just a little bit too late. I imagine that Innovan is going to get rid of these minions, as there's so much Hunter-Beast synergy now with Scavenging Hyena, with Direwolf, with Houndmaster, with all of these cards, that it just makes sense to get rid of them whenever possible. And Zoo decks are all about clearing the board and controlling the board in the early game anyway.
God, we haven't said that one for a while, actually, because we haven't seen any Zoo. I was just thinking of saying it, thought, no, but you're right, we should say it. No one's seen Zoo for a long time. Clearing up, they're going to be very, very scared of Unleash the Hounds here, but that is not in Finland's hand, and this puts Italy in a really, really good spot going forward with his curve looking fantastic. They will know there's no Unleash the Hounds. I think it would need to be played if that was the case, if they had it.
Zoo is sometimes just a great example to differentiate an aggro deck from a face deck, because like Zoo is very aggressive. It's like an aggro board control deck, but you can't call it a face deck because it's not like just put everything into the face whenever possible.
Italy trying to look for a way to not have to take a 50-50 here. This Councilman, if the juggle hit the 4-4, it's the world's easiest trade. If it misses, you end up giving up at least one of your imps, and then you've got to decide what to do. Probably give up the other one. That's 6 attack you take off the board. So they will be considering, can we play Voidwalker? Because if we play Voidwalker here, they can't get to our minions, and we might snipe this bear anyway. The downside of that is you're letting them play what you were talking about, the Houndmaster, and so having gone round in that circle like I just have, I'm pretty sure their thought process would be the same. They're probably just going to drop the Councilman, and if they have to swallow, so be it.
They've then also got a tap if they played the Voidwalker, and it just messes up their curve entirely. But the worst has happened. The knife missed as if you predicted it. Now, I don't think Innovan has a choice. I think both Flame Imps have to go into that Misha. But Innovan's still in an okay position. It feels like he's wasted a lot. But if you look at the state of the board, there's a Councilman which can't be dealt with. There's a Knife Juggler which now can be dealt with, but until just a moment ago, it couldn't have been dealt with.
Yeah, the Hunter... If Finland can get into this on this turn with this Eaglehorn Bow, their forthcoming turns with the Untouchable Tiger, which is really annoying for Zoo, because Zoo likes to buff and kill, into high main, which will then be defended by the Tiger, actually could start turning this one around.
Is it 50-50 time? Well, they just lost one 50-50. Is it time to bet on another? Voidwalker, followed by Soulfire. The problem is, where are you putting the Soulfire? Just into the face?
I think you might even tap here, but the trouble is if you tap into Doomguard or something, you are just losing the game. I'm thinking that because then next time you can defend it and Soulfire together.
This is another option. You play Defender of Argus. It saves your Councilman, sort of.
Yep.
I say sort of because that Direwolf that you called out earlier now coming back to haunt Innovan and Team Italy, going to allow Wampy to make short work of the Councilman.
But do you do it? Because if you play that and you play the Crab, the Zoo isn't completely dealt with, and when do you develop things? So you can clear the board, but then the Zoo just puts a load more stuff back on the board, and you're kind of back where you started, and you haven't got time to play your high main. This way that you're talking about looks like it's the best play, looks like they agree, but this means now they're committed to not having the board for a turn or two against Zoo.
Right, and of course Defender of Argus still sits there. It's going to be able to trade into the Direwolf Alpha. Let's see what Italy picks up here. Possessed Villager.
Perfect.
Now they're able to get the 100% on the Soulfire Silverware Golem. They could even tap after they've done all of that, start to refuel their hand. They're still got 23 health, still in an okay position to be tapping, and they're clearing the entire board. The problem is, Next turn is turn 6. It's Savannah High main turn, and that's where the Hunters can start getting completely out of control.
It is, but they can't get out of control against a board of 4 minions. What happens when Zoo beats Hunter is you ignore the high main and you start, trashing face with all of your men, your beasts, your things. Well, that's a man. Well, he was a man until he got possessed by something.
Yeah, I'll give you that. He wasn't. And
you just start hitting face, and the high main has to start trading. But what they might not be allowing for is the fact there's 2 high mains. So everyone's going to have to start doing some careful maths now, which is obviously our favourite thing as casters.
That old saying that if the high main connects with the face, the game is over. Well, Innovan may be able to just prevent the high main from connecting to the face. There's 1 taunt on the board. There's 2 extra taunts about to be put on the board.
Yeah, there's another old saying, which is taunt is cheat. And this is going to be a big example of that. I imagine we'll see the imp go on the right-hand side, as far away from the death rattle on the left as possible, and then we'll see the 2 minions in the middle given taunt, and that way the imp can just chill in case any discard effects are picked up. No, he's going to even save the imp, which is another way to stop it from getting killed.
It's a shame that he picked up another low-value card, though. He'd like to really have picked up a Doomguard now, or maybe next turn. If he can pick up a Doomguard, then that's perfect. But he needs to. Now he's got the board control. He can prevent the high main for a few turns. He can prevent both high mains for a couple of turns. But really, very soon, Innovan needs to start pushing face and winning the game.
I'm trying to see what the other consideration is here. I guess maybe they were looking for a way to not play the defender so that Finland would miscalculate. That's something possibly. That's all I can think of there about why this wasn't a fairly straightforward play. I suspect I'm missing something. Anyway, they're doing what we thought in the end, pretty much protecting the imp by keeping it in hand and getting an extra tap in, and just smashing face, like you say, 1 step nearer to getting that Doomguard with that tap.
Yeah, Innovan is only 7 off lethal, 6 off lethal next turn as well. Yeah, 6 off lethal next turn. So Doomguard won't quite be enough. Assuming the high main goes.
Sure, yeah.
Golem, sorry. 6 off lethal.
Yep, near enough. But that's as good as lethal. If they pick up the Doomguard and go face with it, that's as good as lethal, because even Unleash wouldn't be a clear. If they don't pick up something that's going to do a bunch of damage, it's when it gets interesting, because they haven't seen Unleash the Hounds. They knew there wasn't one on turn 3, but now we're on turn 7. Next turn is obviously turn 8, and then you have to start factoring actually Unleash the Hounds a lot of damage.
The other thing for Innovan is that he doesn't need to pick up the Doomguard next turn. He can pick up the turn after.
Right.
He can put 1P pretty low, still have a board, put the imp, put the Possessed Villager down, and win in 2 turns, probably. Anyway.
If Houndmaster doesn't get picked up in the meantime to make these beasts massive taunt minions.
Houndmaster on that 6/6 would probably end the game the other way. Firefly, not what Innovan's looking for. The question now is, can he afford to tap?
And can he afford not to?
Yeah, that's probably more likely. I think he has to. He's not really facing down much damage now. If he's willing to trade away the Argus into the Beast Rager. That's a good draw.
And now it's what you play around. Do you think you're safe against Unleashed? Not really, but you can make yourself a massive Councilman. You can do it next turn though. You can play your 1-drops next turn if you want to. But if you've decided not to play around Unleashed, then you put your 1/1 Possessed Villager into the high main here and just buff your Councilman 1 more. Yeah.
How close is it? If he has Unleashed the Hounds, do you lose every time? Probably not, if you play around it. But
right, you have to do the math, and there's 4 of them and there's 2 of us, so I'm going to let Italy do that math.
Yeah, if there's no Unleash the Hound, then you usually always win with this play.
Right. Yeah, I think it's plentifully fine.
It's crunch time now for 1P. Picking up George McCaw. That's not Unleash the Hounds. What can he pick up that sort of saves him here?
Tundra Rhino.
Yeah,
pretty sure. That's usually the answer to this question.
Scavenging Hyena. Well, with the Tundra Rhino, this card's insane. Without, it's not going to do enough.
Can they remove enough damage from the board?
The answer, I believe, is a resounding no.
Yeah, this Firefly is just so ridiculous in terms of buffing Councilman.
Exactly. They have no way of clearing the Councilman. They can clear both taunts, and then that's it. Leaving 6 damage currently on the board, plus 2 buffs with the Firefly. Yeah, that's just guaranteed lethal next turn. It looks like Innovan is going to take this.
Yeah, Italy will be off to a 3-0 start to, again, back up their accomplishments last season where several of them were qualifying for HCT events. Turner eventually got top 8, of course, and basically Italy just a really good up-and-coming nation and showing how good and up-and-coming they are as they take down Finland 3-2. Finland dropped to 1 and 2. They're not out of it yet. This group has a lot of teams that are struggling. Norway, of course, also struggling. Chile struggling as well.
Congratulations, though, to Innovan and Team Italy. Innovan winning the rematch against Wampi. I believe it was Wampi that beat him earlier, coming back, winning with the Zoo deck. You know, Warlock is now 2-0 today.
Yeah. Turns out that when you play something no one's expecting, it's a lot better than when they are expecting it.
But just what a fantastic series. Once again, going right the way to the ace match. It looked for a while like Finland really had it in their grasp, but then Italy coming back, winning the last 2 games, putting themselves right at the top of the group as one of the only 3-0s in the competition. In
a fantastic spot there, yeah, well clear of the top of the group of this one. And Italy looking good to get into that last 24, where they'll get into another round robin and have another 3 matches at least.
Just to recap there, Innovan losing his first game, but yeah, as I said, winning the rematch against One Piece, Snowman and Turner also winning their games against Finland. Finland now looking a little bit weaker. They're 1 win and 2 losses. They're still okay, but they've got some work to do. I believe that we have an interview with Snowman, so hey Snowman, how's it going?
Hey, very well, thank you.
Congratulations on your win. How were you feeling going into the last part of that series? Because Finland won 2 games in a row, and you had quite a bit of work to do to catch up. Were you feeling the pressure?
Yeah, Dan. I mean, you'd feel the pressure too if you were down 2-1 and with a horrible matchup such as Control Shaman versus Agro Druid. But with a great draw with the Finja, we were able to change the outcome of the game. The matchup was unfavored, but we managed to win that. And then in the end, the Zoo managed to work it out versus the mid-range Hunter.
Absolutely. Finja did a lot of work there.
Yeah, how bad was it when you mulliganed away 2 drops in Paladin and they just drew that horrible hand as your Paladin?
Yeah, that was insanely bad. Like, last time, it happened the same exact thing with the Paladin. We had turn 1 pass, turn 2 hero power, and we just got, like, overrun completely. But this time was the same, but fortunately, the last game, the Zoo was able to pull it out.
So Italy are now 3 wins and 0 losses in the Hearthstone Global Games. How is the team and the country feeling about this? Is there a lot of national pride?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of attention on the team. Italy has a very, very big community, and everyone was expecting big things. So we're definitely very happy to... this is beyond expectation. Yeah, I mean, 3-0 wouldn't have been expected even by the most optimistic. So that's really, really awesome. And now we are looking very, very good to make it out of the group.
Congratulations, just tearing through the best players in the world. Thank you so much for your time, Snowman, and congratulations once again to Team Italy.
Thanks a lot. Bye, Dan.
And oddly enough, another very happy interviewee.
Yeah, it's funny that we do tend to interview the guys that have just won.
Don't fancy interviewing Wampy right now.
So it can be to be expected. Oh, Wampy, he was doing such a good job at ending his tilt, but then that happened.
Yeah.
Back to tilt mode. Let's take one more look at Group Italy with a game record of 9-4, looking very strong right at the top. One of the only few teams, like America being one of the only few other ones, that's actually 3-0 in the competition, looking very strong to head into the next phase.
Yeah, and Finland, as you can see, not completely out of it. These teams are better than they probably look if you skim read it. Norway's actually okay, Japan are pretty good as well, but not the most difficult group to get out of. So 1 and 2, whilst it is definitely bad, Finland, a very experienced team, could still get out of that group.
The other thing is they actually have a 7-8 game record. So despite the fact they've lost 1 entire extra series, they've only lost 1 extra game than what they've won in total. Anyways, we are going to cut to a very short break, but we're going to be back in a moment with Croatia versus Germany. That's going to be a good one. Don't go anywhere.
We're almost there. Quiet down, everyone. This is not like any of our previous expeditions. This will be far more ambitious. We're stepping into a land of primordial wonder. Infused with astonishing elemental energies. The plant life here holds very unusual properties. So don't touch anything. And while you may be excited to see the local fauna, you might want to make sure they don't see you. Because their powers of adaptation are devastating. Make no mistake, we will be tested at every turn. But if we stay on our guard, we might just survive. Now then, are you ready? Then let's journey into Ongoro Crater.